helped us, give us a good week, Lord, and just want to let you know we appreciate it. Thanks for the way you helped with the work Wednesday night, Lord, and nobody got hurt, and everything got done. Just appreciate that, Lord. I ask you to be with our sick ones, Lord, and the ones that need a touch, Sister Annie and Brother Rick, Sister Marla, and the different ones, Lord. Just ask you to touch them, Lord. Help them heal them, Lord. Draw them close to thee, Lord, and the many ones who need our prayers, Lord, here and around the country, Lord, to see their need of thee, Lord, and to recognize, Lord, that you are, Lord, and you're the only one who can deliver them, Lord. And then ones who just need to be encouraged, Lord, and with our brothers and sisters in the foreign countries, Lord, and you see how the troubles and the conflicts they're going through, Lord. I ask you to touch them, Lord, and draw them to thee, Lord, and let them know that you love them, Lord, and that you have a solution, Lord. And we thank you for all you do. Be at the services today. Help us, Lord, that we give acceptable worship and praise to thee and learn of thee, Lord, and apply these things to our lives. We ask it all in Jesus' name. Amen. So, last time we studied, we started looking, we've been looking at who God is. We'll continue down that path for a while, because what you're going to see, we had been working around, looking around different things about the standards and doctrines and teachings, and what you're going to see is the more we learn who God is, it's going to directly answer a lot of questions around standards and doctrines. Because there's some things it's just who God is. It's not because something's black and white, thou shalt or thou shalt not. It's this whose God is. And when I know who he is, it answers a lot of questions about what he would and wouldn't want out of my life. So we'll see some of that, but we started looking at it, and we started looking down through creation, and our theme for this section of study is going to be John 1 through 5. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was with God. And the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And the same was in the beginning with God. All things were made by him. Without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. And the light shineth in the darkness, and darkness comprehendeth it not. So we got what we're trying to get to, and it'll become more and more evident the farther we go. God is so far above everything else. He's so far above it. What we try to put a value on and what we try to put an emphasis on, we've really got to step back and look how it fits in his light. Because it's easy for us to get it to our level of importance. We're not even seeing him. Like he told us, he goes, my thoughts are far above your thoughts. Way above what you're thinking. Because I'm not limited by your lifespan and your thoughts. We're limited by, hey, let's next year, this next week, next month. Maybe if we're really a far thinker, 3 or 4 years out, and he's thinking 3 or 4 centuries out. Come on. It's a whole different way of looking at it. And God, he's not limited by what we are. Time means nothing to him. It doesn't have that. To us, time is everything. To him, time's it's nothing. He made it up out of thin air. So we started looking at creation in Genesis, and God created the heaven and the earth from nothing. He just spoke them into existence. And he said that everything he did is good. And Christ told us there's none good but God. So everything he does is good. And we're trying to learn about him. We're trying to learn who he is, what he thinks, what he feels, what concerns him. And we know now everything he does is good. Well, this is going to have to make us stop and consider. We like to question God an awful lot about what he does. Come on, whether we like it or not, we like to question what he does. He's good. If he did it, it was good. And that's not easy to deal with sometimes, because what we want to happen doesn't mean that's his good. And we want a lot of things. Then God created light. He created dark. He created the firmament, which is basically what we would call the skies, the heavens, the universe, the solar system, and on out beyond into what we call outer space. Because our universe, our solar system exists within outer space, which is so big we can't even comprehend it. We have no idea where it ends out there. As we know, scientists claim and believe that there are many solar systems out in that universe, but we don't know anything about it or where it is. And he created all that, and he called that the second day. Then he took this mass that, as best we can understand, was first a big ball of water, and he separated the water, and he pulled the earth up out from under it. He raised that up, made dry land appear, and he called the ground earth, and he called the water seas. And he called that, this is the world. This is the world. He made all the plants grow on it. Everything that can grow, he made to grow. Caused them to appear and to reproduce their own kind. So you don't see an apple tree creating peaches. You don't see grass growing, and next thing you know where that grass is, there was just corn there because it just decided to grow corn. It doesn't work that way. They grow exactly what they were. And that was the third day. Then he decided, hey, you know what? There's going to be people living on here. And we got to give them a way to navigate. We're going to put the sun out there so they can see. Not only that, we're going to put something out there so even at night in the dark, they still have some light. Let's make this thing that revolves around this earth that'll reflect the sun back and give us a little bit of light. We'll call it the moon. Just this week, we had the red moon. Oh, it was a big deal. It was all over the news. Now, Brother Matt and I got to be honored to be down in Tennessee a while back and hear this Jewish guy talking about it. And the red moon to them, they call it the Shemitah. And it's in Jewish lore, it's a big deal. There's any number of things that could happen during the Shemitah. Nothing ever happens, but any number of things that could happen. And if they happen to find a pure, perfect red heifer and sacrifice it during the Shemitah, a whole bunch of other things could happen. But they haven't found that pure, perfect red heifer either. So we get cracked up about it because you would think after all these thousands of years, they would have caught on. It's just an eclipse. So you're catching at the right time and the right angle to look red. Actually orange, but yeah. And that was the fourth day. Then he created all forms of non-human life. In the sea, in the land, on the air. And he told them to reproduce and create their own. And that was the fifth day. And he created man in his own image. He gave man, and see, man's having trouble with this right now. All what we want to call tree huggers, all your environmentalists, blah, 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 they have a little bit of problem with this. He created man in his own image and told him to have dominion over this earth. Everything on it and the earth. Oh, no, don't burn that, don't do this, you'll hurt the frog, you have dominion over it. You do know what you need to be done, I'll take care of the rest of them. That don't mean to go out and waste it and destroy things. But also it doesn't mean to be in fear of living on this earth and doing anything at all because you might interfere with a three-eyed grasshopper or something. Who cares? God can he made it, he can bring it back if he wants it. And that brought it to the seventh day. Genesis 2. Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And then he started evolution. They were finished. Show me anything that we can say other than the one that everybody wants, which is mankind. They want to try to prove it. Show me where anybody tries to prove that the dog evolved from a grasshopper or pick an animal, doesn't matter what it was. that something else evolved. They don't do that with anything except man, because there's other creatures out there that have similar body structures to what a human has. Oh, we must have evolved from that. No, God created us exactly like we are, and it was finished. It was finished. And on the seventh day, God ended his work, which he had made, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had made. God blessed the seventh day, and he sanctified it, set it aside. He declared it holy. This is mine. This is special. This is dedicated to a purpose. Because in it he had rested from all his work which God created and made. His creation was now complete. He had created and designed everything you know. Were they literal 24-hour days? We have no idea. And you know what? It makes no difference. I remember having this discussion with my grandfather, Thompson, old minister and pastor a couple places, and he told me this, Danny, it makes no difference. God did it. If he wanted to say a day was 200,000 years, he did it. It doesn't matter. What matters is he did it. You're getting caught up in the things that cause people to argue and fight and getting away from what really matters here. Because there's some things that don't matter, and we won't know till we get to heaven. So how long those days were, doesn't matter. It was a day. It was daytime the whole day. So if it was a day for 24 hours or a day for 200,000 years, it was day that whole time. Oh, well, I guess you're right. It does make sense. But his creation was complete. He had created everything. He had created mankind, male and female. And guess how he got them all to live? All the ones that breathe through lungs and through their nostrils. He breathed into them. His breath. They came alive. He didn't have to get out a little electric thing and shock them. He didn't have to get some special thing and pump them up. He just, okay, next. Everything he created functioned exactly like he told it to. It did exactly what he designed it to. Oh, but this animal kills this animal. That's what he designed it to do. Oh, but this one's going to eat this. Yes, it is. That's what he designed it to. Come on, God created things this way. And if you look out there and you study people who really study ecology and the world's wildlife, they'll tell you, if you take out the top predator, you're going to destroy all kinds of stuff. Yeah, he kills these ones, but he keeps them from replenishing too many. And they keep the ones below them from replenishing too many. And they eat the ones below them to keep from starving to death. God created it all in there, and he caused them to reproduce fast enough and often enough to keep the balance. The balance never goes out in nature. The only time it goes out is when man goes in and screws it all up. But nature, it never goes out. No matter how much one thing eats another and kills another, that's exactly what they're supposed to do. God made them that way. He didn't do anything. He created nothing without a reason. This really came to me when I was looking at this today. I was like, well, what about rocks? What about this? What about this? He said, some things, my reason was, they're beautiful. I just created them so man could have beauty. I created some things just so you could behold and go, wow. So on the seventh day, we're looking at attributes of God. This is one. The seventh day, God created and rested on the seventh day. He blessed that day. He sanctified it. He set it aside to be kept sacred and holy because it was his day of rest. In later scriptures, as we get down and when you get far enough to go to Moses, he calls it his Sabbath. And he commands men to respect it and to keep it. And the question is it more important than we want to think it is? Is it maybe a lot more important than most of mankind thinks it is? The Sabbath. Way back at the very beginning, he created this. This wasn't something he came along several thousand years later when Moses came along. He created this right at the beginning before we even knew anything about man, other than he created them. He said, this is my day. Is it more important to him than we think it is? Is it something we need to be concerned ourselves about? Hey, I need to be careful if I'm giving respect to God's day. You know, I want to go see this ball game. I want to go watch my kids do this. I want to go do this, and this, and they did it on Sunday. Is that day more important to God than what I think it is? He's always said this was his day. He never said different. Is it a lot more important than we want to give it credit for? We want to know God. Then we come to Genesis 2 and the 15th verse. And God took man and put him in the Garden of Eden and told him, take thine ease, eat, drink, and be merry. What did he tell him from day one? Come on, what did he tell him? What are you reading right there? What did he tell him from the very first day? Put him in the garden and told him to dress it and keep it. What is that? Work. We got an attribute of God here. He expects man to work. He expects man to do something. He didn't expect lazy shills that just sit around doing nothing. I want to think that, well, the world hand me a living. I don't feel like this. My ancestors somewhere back in time got mistreated, and you should all just give me everything. No. From day one, when he put him in there, this is his perfect garden. This is before Adam got kicked out of the Garden of Eden. In the perfect garden, he was told, get in there and get to work. And in the Hebrew, dressing it means to tend it, to cultivate it, to serve it. Keep it means to guard it and take care of it and watch over it. This is in their own language. Why? Because no matter where they are, God created plants, and he created them to do something. Grow. And guess what? They do what they're told to do. And what do we know about plants if you get some plants too close to other plants? They grow too much. And these ones will grow so much, they'll kill this one out. You got to pull them back, weed them away, so that these ones will grow the way you want them to. And he also had, as best we can tell, the wild animals were everywhere. And some wild animals will destroy plants. Come on, we got this today with deer and other ones. You got to shoo them away. You got to fence them off, keep them out away from different things so they don't destroy it. Day one, Adam, this is my garden. You can take care of that. Get busy, boy. Oh, I'll take care of God. God took care of it at first. I'll take care of the planting. I'll take care of that stuff. You just take care of tending it. So now we know something. We got another attribute of God. He expects us to work. He created Adam and Eve, put them in his garden, told them to dress it and keep it. Protect it and care for it. And he's always expected man to work as part of his function of living. Yeah. Then ours second. Ours is just selfish wants for the most part.
And if you don't do God first, he'll kick you out.
Well, he did, didn't he?
That's right.
But the Sabbath was the only take thine ease and rest day he gave us. Everything else man gave himself. Not working and everybody else providing for you. Even Paul said, if a man won't work, he shouldn't eat. Don't let him eat. Don't feed him. If he won't work, don't you support him. Once that God had established Adam's place in the garden and gave him his job to do, then he gave him his first task and his first instructions. He'd already gave him his first commandment. Does anybody remember Adam's first commandment, the very first commandment to mankind? So we've got a whole political, societal argument out there that isn't even a discussion. God gave us instructions. Where the whole discussion of whether you like it, we'll go down this path. It don't bother me. I'm old. Feminism, come on, and what they're wanting to call autonomy over their own body, murdering children, abortion, the whole bit. That's not God. That's not how He created it. From the beginning, it was an embarrassment to a woman to not have children. You read about it in the Bible many times in the Old Testament. If she was barren, she was like basically almost looked down on by all the others because she didn't have children. That's how God created her. That's what He created you for, to do. This was the first instructions He gave you. The very first thing He ever told you, and you can't do it, they considered it embarrassment. It wasn't their fault. If God created and didn't give them that capacity. But I want to have a career first, and I need to establish myself, and I have to feel a sense of well-being. Your sense of well-being is doing God's will. Your sense of fulfillment is doing God's will. And that will change over your life, because there comes a time you get old enough there is no more childbearing. He's going to have different jobs for you to do. All this stuff changes. God has his own plan in mind, but man wants it all screwed up. But he came in, and what did He tell him? He said, hey, I want you to work in this garden. You do all this work, you can eat anything you want to here except for that one tree. You leave that alone. Why? Because when you eat of that tree, now you're going to gain a certain specific knowledge. You're going to be held accountable for that knowledge from that point on. You can never go back. Once you've gained that knowledge, there is no going back from it. And spiritually, you'll die. And Adam was going along, oh yeah, fine. Why? Well, but why would God put that there? Because He wanted to have a creature who would serve Him because they wanted to serve Him, who would obey Him because they wanted Him to be their God. You read in Revelations and other scriptures, He has a whole heaven full of creatures He's created who serve Him because they're told to. They have no choice. He wanted somebody who did it they wanted to, so He gave them a choice. And He only made one option: just don't touch that tree. Everything else you can do, everything you want. God hates sin and evil so much, He originally protected man from even knowing about it, but gave him a choice if he really wanted to know about it. If man didn't know evil existed, he couldn't be tempted to indulge in it. And to be honest, he couldn't really make a lot of choice not knowing much about it. His only choice was, I want to obey God. That would have been the only choice he had. He didn't know more to ask more. But Adam was created with no knowledge of sin or evil. So God gave him a choice, and that's the second thing we know. God's a fair God. He wants us to decide to live for Him. And He wants man to choose that. So God gave us a choice. See, we're learning more about Him. He didn't say, don't touch that. And by the way, I don't want you to touch it so much. And I've read a lot of people who are like this now. This is their thought. Well, if He didn't want us to sin, why did He even give us the ability to do it? God could have said, you can't see that tree. I'll just make it, you just can't see it. You could never sin. You could never touch it. That's not giving you a choice to serve Him. Now you're just a creature who serves Him because that's all you can do. Deuteronomy 30, 15 through 20. See, I have set before thee this day life and good, death and evil. and that I command thee this day to love the Lord thy God, walk in his ways, and to keep his commandments, and his statute, and his judgments, that thou mayest live and multiply. And the Lord thy God bless thee in the land whither thou goest to possess it. But if thou wilt turn thy heart away, so that thou wilt not hear, but shall be drawn away and worship other gods and serve them, I denounce unto you this day that you will surely perish. And thou shalt not prolong your days on this earth, whither thou goest over Jordan to possess it. I call the heaven and the earth to be a witness. God's creation, he created you guys witness this. I'm telling them, you witness it. God created you to do what you're doing, you witness it. I call the heaven and earth to record this day against you, that I have set before you life and death, blessing and cursing. Therefore choose life, that both thou and thy seed may live, that thou may love the Lord thy God, and that thou mayest obey his voice, and that thou mayest cleave unto him, for he is thy life, the length of thy days, that thou mayest dwell in the land which God sware unto thy fathers, unto Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to give them. He gave us a choice. He called his own creation to witness. Hey, I told him, choose what you're going to do. So Adam and Eve went about doing their thing, and yeah, we all know the story of the talking serpent and Eve being tempted first, and then Adam falling right in line with her. Well, a lot of people. A lot of people want to say Adam, well, he just listened to her. Hey, he was the one God told. Whether you like it or not, he's the one God told. And until then, he didn't have to till the ground and plant seed and all this. They grew, he just went out and cleaned them up. So now God comes in Genesis 3, 8 through 13, and they heard the voice of the Lord walking in the garden in the cool of the day, and Adam and his wife hid themselves in the presence of God amongst the trees of the garden. And the Lord God called unto Adam and said, Adam, where are you? And he said, I heard your voice in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, and I hid myself. And he said, who told you that you're naked? Have you eaten from the tree? God already knew. But God was doing something that God always does. He makes and allows you to speak for yourself. Oh, he requires it, but he lets you speak for yourself. He doesn't put the words in your mouth. He lets you speak for yourself. You will answer for whatever you do, good, bad, or sideways. You will speak for it. Whether here on earth or when it comes before heaven, you will speak for everything you do. Give it serious thought. You will answer for it. Oh, but nobody's seen it. Nobody was there. No, you will answer for everything you do. Have you eaten from the tree whereof I commanded thee that thou shouldest not eat? And he said, well, the woman whom thou gavest to be with me, she gave me of the tree, and I did eat. So God talked to her, and he said, okay, what is this thou hast done? And she said, well, the serpent beguiled me, and I did eat. So this wasn't a one-time deal. Their own children, a little ways down the road, they had to answer for what they did. Genesis 4, 4 through 10. And Abel he also brought forth the firstlings of his flock and of the fat thereof. And the Lord had respect unto Abel and his offering. But Cain unto his offering he had not respect. And Cain was very wroth, and his countenance fell. And the Lord said unto Cain, why art thou wroth? Why is thy countenance fallen? If thou doest well, shalt thou not be accepted? I've read several other things, historical stuff and studies about Cain and Abel. These weren't kids. These were adults. They believe both of them were married and had children, because there's references later to some of the children of them. And they had to have known what was expected. We don't read about them being told that, but we had to have known what was expected, or God wouldn't have told them this. If you do well, won't it be accepted? And if thou doest not well, sin lies at your door. And unto thee shall be his desire, and thou shalt rule over him. And Cain talked to Abel with his brother, and it came to pass when they were in the field that Cain rose up against his brother and slew him. And the Lord said unto Cain, Where's Abel your brother? And he said, I know not. Am I my brother's keeper? And he said, What hast thou done? The voice of thy brother's blood calls to me. Something else we just learned about God. He requires an answer. Whether here in this life or at the judgment, he requires an answer. He will get an answer. You will answer him for everything you do. This should give us serious thought, consideration about what we're doing and what we're thinking about, and what we're intending with our life. We're going to answer for it. And God said, let's go on to 14th. Chapter 3, the Lord said unto the serpent, Because thou hast done this thing, thou art cursed above all cattle. And he told the serpent what would happen to him. We're not going to read all the words, but we're just going down through here. Unto the woman, he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception. In sorrow shalt thou bring forth children, and thy desire shall be to my husband, and he shall rule over thee. Now, we don't know what the balance was before that point. Well, we don't know what the original creation was. He didn't tell us. But this was what he changed it to. They may have been literally totally equal at that point. But he said, now you're going to answer to him. Now, conception and the life of a woman is going to be greatly multiplied your sorrow. And to Adam, he said, okay, bud, because you listened to your wife instead of me, and you ate of this tree after I told you don't eat it, I just decided I'm cursing the ground. It's not going to bring forth crops for you by itself anymore. They're not just going to start growing for you. All you got to do is go out and harvest and clean it up, protect it. Now, you got to go out and dig it and plant it yourself. You got to do all the work to find seed, keep seed, protect seed, and plant it. How easy it was going to be? Yeah, it ain't no more. Now it's going to be a hard life. And he told him, he said, Cursed is the ground for thy sake, in sorrow shalt thou eat of it all thy days. Thorns also and thistles shall it bring forth thee, and thou shalt eat of the herbs of the field. In the sweat of thy face shalt thou eat bread till thou return to the ground. For out of it wast thou taken, for dust thou art, and unto dust thou shalt return. We learned a couple things. God doesn't ignore wrongdoing. Come on, this is something that's pretty much out there everywhere right now. Oh, God, he doesn't think that. He doesn't ignore anything. He doesn't ignore it. Oh, we may not see instant, immediate punishment. We think because, well, I did this and he didn't strike me dead instantaneously, he doesn't care. He doesn't ignore it. These were his very first creations. These were the first people he ever had to hear, talk to deal with. If you was ever going to cut slack to somebody, you would have thought it had been the first ones until they kind of learned the ropes. Nope. From day one, if you disobey, there's a price to be paid for that. First, you got to answer for what you did. Then there's a price to be paid for it. From the very first beginning, he never changed. And if you notice something, his punishment wasn't easy. His punishment was pretty harsh compared to what they were used to. And he carried it over for the rest of history, for all mankind. One, I didn't talk to no serpent. My wife didn't, and she didn't tell me to go eat whatever it was. But we're still paying that price. All those prices, all those things that happen, man's still paying the price for that. God does not overlook sin. He is good. He cannot abide sin. It's not that he won't. He can't. It can't be where he is. It can't be around him. It can't exist his presence. He doesn't and he cannot overlook sin. When he punished them, he even punished the ones who went along. They weren't the original ones who did it. And his punishments were not slaps on the wrist. They were harsh. Why? He wanted to get your attention. He wanted man to learn from what he did and not to do it again. This is why later the wise man told us, spare the rod, spoil the child. Why? We have many scriptures where we said, those God loveth, he chasteneth. People's got to this point now, they're so wimpy and so mamby-pamby about child care and raising children. Oh, just try to talk to them about making good choices and why that wasn't a good thing to do. And no, get a switch out, light them up a couple times. They won't do it again. They may want to, but that's going to be right in the forefront of their mind. Mom said if I touch that, I'm getting lit up. Not, that's a bad choice, you might break it. And somebody's feelings might be hurt because you broke it. No, your feelings are going to be hurt because you touched it. And they're going to hurt for a long time because it'll take 2 or 3 days for the stripes to go away. And if you do it again, you're going to get more. And guess what? It solves the problem. Kids grow up learning there is an authority. There is a set of rules that when you grow up, you learn, I'm within this guideline whether I like it or not. And it isn't so hard in society with the laws of the country to understand it's not an option. This is what society chose as the law. I have to live within that or there's a price to be paid. Not yell at somebody, well, you did that because I'm pick a color, pick a race, pick a gender. No, that's why you did it. No, that's the law. Well, God knows what he's doing. And he set this up from the very beginning. He doesn't overlook sin, and punishment is part of what he believes in. Punishment is his way of correcting our mistakes so that we won't make them again. Or at least if we do, we're doing it knowing that it's not going to be fun. It would be a very unloving God. Come on, he would be an unloving God who let us live like people want to raise children now. We wouldn't make heaven. Sin cannot exist where he is. Not he won't let it. It can't exist where he is. He's doing this on purpose so that you can be where he is. You have to get cleaned up. You have to step away from this stuff. We're trying to learn who God is and learn a little bit about him. When we come down the road here, and we're going to get there, God's already showed me a few things we're going to be looking at. And we start looking at more of the stuff around some of the doctrines and some of the standards and some of the teachings. We give ourselves a lot of leeway that would never be there if we know who God is. Because we'd be looking at it going, I got to give him the benefit of the doubt. Number one, I don't even know what the answer is, and I still got to give him the benefit of the doubt. Anything else, we'll see if it's okay. And then we'll examine ourselves as to why, whatever it is, we do or don't want to do it. Because that matters almost as much as whatever it is we're doing, if not more. Why is it you want to do this? But we won't be wanting to, well, I want to, and this is okay because God didn't say. You better know a little bit about God before you start thinking whether God's okay with it or not. As you see, he didn't cut a whole lot of slack to the very first people he created, and they didn't know very much, at least in our understanding. They knew, don't do this. Now, I told you, don't do that. You can do anything else, just don't do that. And that's the one thing they went and did. And he's told us many times throughout the scripture, I don't punish you because I hate you. I don't punish you to be mean. I punish you because I love you. I want you to do good. I want you to do well. I want you to be able to come be with me. And this is the only way it's going to happen. Now, if God knows that, why do we have so much trouble with child rearing? Come on, in this country today, if you go through it, one of the things that stuck out to me this week, because I read a thing about it, a guy was saying things, and it's like, one of the worst jobs out there is being a school bus driver. There's no discipline. You're not even allowed to discipline them. How in the world do you keep yourself safe and get them safely to and from where they're going when they're just animals? Just turn them loose. And I cracked up. I was like, you all don't, Chris does, but most of y'all don't know the school bus drivers we had. She took her own son off the bus alongside the road, thrashed his hiney right there alongside the road, and then made him walk home. We got in the bus and drove off, left him. He had miles to go. She said, you better be there when I get there. And he was. She told us he was there. We had discipline when I was growing up. But no, this is the God we serve. We need to we need to respect him. We need to have a godly fear. Not be afraid of him, but have a godly fear. This is what he expects. Now, we're going to get farther on. Now we're going to start getting into more of the good things about God, because we see these as bad things, because this is the stuff we don't enjoy so much. But we're going to start seeing more of the good things about God, and he cares. And he loves us, and we need to put that in just as much understanding and respect as this. When he wants something, like Brother Matt said, he expects us to do things for him first. Put that in highest priority. Our life is short. In God's eyes, we have this little bitty spot. If we need to be 120, which would be a very old age, we have a little bitty spot. And all the things we think we want have a very small place in his timeline.